Okay, we're recording. Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Pierce, and I am really excited to do this call with you guys tonight. So first off, there was one topic in the newsletter and one topic posted today, so I apologize for confusion, but what I am going to share is just a list of things that I wish I knew as a new coach, and I think these are things that are helpful. Like if you started yesterday or if you've been doing this for a while, they're really good reminders. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And as I go, if there's other people that maybe you can coach for a while yourself and you have something else to add, by all means, interrupt me, comment, let me know. So let me first mute everybody. Oh, I can never remember how to do it. Okay, I think we've got everyone muted. If you are hopping on, please mute yourself when you do so. So, okay, let's hop into this. Before I get started, I wanted to introduce myself. Some of you may not know me or may not know about my story, my background, so I wanted to share a little bit about that because I think it sets a little bit of the story, the stage for this list that I have. I don't have any slides for you guys tonight, but I do have like a list in a graphic that I'll post afterwards. So be sure that you're taking notes, or just if something pops into your head that really sticks with you, make sure you write it down. So I have been a coach for almost 4 years. I think my coach anniversary is, I think it's on Monday or something. So pretty exciting. It's been almost 4 years. I live in Michigan right now. But I was thinking back to when I first started as a coach, and I was living with my boyfriend in Houston. We were not married. We did not have a dog. All those things changed. We moved across the country. I am now 6 months pregnant, so we are entering into this whole new realm of life, and coaching has kind of stuck with me the entire time. I have a degree in chemical engineering, and I work full-time at a pharmaceutical plant. I am in the quality assurance department right now, so very rules, organized, that kind of thing. I am kind of type A, but I really want to work on being like calm and peaceful, and I like to call myself a bit of a recovering overachiever. And so I think if some of you guys have similar personalities, hopefully some of these things that I talked to you about today may resonate or hit home for you. So when you first start out as a new coach, you are like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And, there's so many amazing people on this team, and, you'll be running a group with someone. You should at least feel like you have some semblance of support or somebody that you can ask questions to. But for most of us, this is a completely new and overwhelming environment. A lot of us were in a challenge group before we started coaching, and that's how we kind of knew this was something we wanted to do. And so you may kind of know what to do in like the group sense. But as far as running a business, there's social media, there's advertising, like all of a sudden there's all this stuff. And so it can be really overwhelming. And so let's kind of just jump into this list of some things that I wish when I first started someone had told me. And this isn't like, oh, someone didn't tell me. Sometimes when you start, like I started, my coach is Becca, and she started 3 months before me. So we were like learning this whole thing together. And sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? So let's talk about the first thing. Set yourself some business hours. And this goes into the second thing. Not all your free time needs to be spent on this business. I know when I first started, and I was so excited, and I wanted to just like help and save the world because I loved this so much. I'm pretty sure I spent every moment that I was not at my job on this business. And that is not good for friendships. That is not good for a marriage. And that isn't good for yourself and will probably lead to burnout. So, part of this business is that you'll be getting messages all the time. You may see a coach working, super late, and you're going to bed and they're posting shit. You're going to see that, but know that maybe that's their time that they work, or maybe they live in a totally different time zone. Coaches do not work all the time. It's just not, it's not something that you should do. And I know when I was a new coach, I would always see people posting and being active, and I felt like I needed to do that all the time. So out of, trying to still live a life and still do this awesome coaching thing, you really need to set business hours. For me right now, I work on my lunch break. So it's pretty much noon to 1 every single day. On Wednesday nights, I typically work an hour before this call, so 7:30 to 8:30, and then this call. And then on the weekends, I like to do an hour Saturday, Sunday mornings. Those fluctuate just depending on if we're traveling. So if you think about that, right now, I'm not putting in a lot of hours, but that's because that's where my life currently is. And so my business hours are going to look different than yours, but you need to set them and you need to respect them. When I first started this whole business hour thing, I would literally tell my husband, this is when I'm working. You will come knock on my office door and say, it's time to be done. And then I would stop until I kind of got into the habit. So those are kind of just that's some basic stuff you can do. Another thing that I remember getting really stressed out about as a new coach was like invite count, I guess. There's a lot of different, depending on who you talk to, there's a lot of different ideas about how many people you should invite per day, per week, coach invites that you should do. And all of those things are really great guidelines and guidances to give you some idea of, you have to talk to a lot of people at the end of the day to find the people that you really want to work with. It's like the pyramid or the funnel, right? And so those numbers are kind of a guidance for you, but you also need to understand, where they're coming from, right? So here I am, like brand new coach, just trying to figure this out. I have a day job and I don't have, the time to spend on this. And I'm trying to do the same number of invites, that maybe Sarah was doing, who had been at that point in this business for like 2 years. This was her full-time job. And so I was creating this massive disconnect by expecting that me as a part-time worker could magically produce the same amount within like way less time than what my upline was doing. And part of that is my personality, right? Like I want to be the best as soon as I start. Like that's just who I am. And so knowing that it is okay if your numbers are a little lower because maybe, this isn't your full-time job, or you had something crazy happen one month that totally just took away all your time. It's okay if your numbers are a little bit lower, as long as you are continuing to be consistent and the time you are spending, you are doing value-added activities. So take whatever numbers and guidances that you're given with a grain of salt. And you have to be realistic with your time. One of the best phone calls I think I ever had as a new coach was I actually sat down with Becca and I said, I feel like I have to do all these things in my power hour and I'm never finishing it within my hour, and it's really stressing me out. So we sat down and we literally talked through, this is what I'm doing. Why is it taking me so long? Here's some stuff that doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, here are the 3 things that I need to do every single day. And if I don't get to the rest, that's okay. And it was a really awesome conversation. So you need to understand how you work and be realistic with it and know that you're not going to work the same as somebody else. So when you hear about a power hour or see different coaches doing power hours, go watch it, figure out what they're doing. Maybe their way is like totally clicking and someone else's way isn't. But be realistic with yourself. I think sometimes as coaches, we bring a lot of stress onto ourselves that maybe we don't need to. All right, next up, don't be afraid to invite. I know that sounds like, well, duh, but you know, inviting, especially at the beginning, can be really scary, especially if you're, I don't know. I mean, I feel like my whole experience, like engineer, like I'm always working in groups and stuff, but I've never really been in a position in my life where I've had to be so forward in initiating conversations, and that was really scary to me. But always remember, whether you just started or you've been doing this for 10 years, we have something incredibly valuable to offer people. We have, I mean, there's a reason that we're all here. We've fallen in love with a community, with products, with stuff that has literally changed our lives. And so when the fear of stepping outside your comfort zone kind of gets in the way, just take it back to what amazing stuff we have to offer. And I always would think about, what if Becca never invited me? Like, how different would my life be if she was so scared she never said, hey, do you want to work out at Hey, I'm back. I don't know what just happened. Okay, seriously, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so sorry, you guys, but I'm back, and it looks like we're still recording, which is yay, technology. Okay, so that was actually a great time for me to drop out because I was right between topics. Okay, so what I was going to say is, I actually heard this particular thing on a national wake-up call, like, I don't know, maybe a year or so after I started, and I was like, this is genius. But it's really easy. When you're posting and when you're talking to people, don't use Beachbody jargon. Like, don't say 21-day fix challenge group. Nobody outside of our little space like has any idea what that means. So I like to use things like my online boot camp, my virtual boot camp. It's a 3-week fitness and nutrition program. It comes with a meal plan. It helps with portion control. It's a superfood smoothie. I love to use the word smoothie. Like, I rarely use the word shake because I think, I don't know, everyone's like, as soon as you hear shake, they're like, oh, protein shake. And I don't want their brains to go there. But so I say smoothie all the time because then people have such positive reaction to that word. So instead of using specific descriptors about what our programs are, think about what they are in general. And then use those words. A trick that I actually always learned in engineering is, if you have to explain how something works at your job, how would you explain it to your grandma who has never ever been to your workplace? And so think about that when you're talking to people about our programs. How would you explain it to your grandma or to your 5-year-old or to someone who just moved here, whatever it may be? How would you explain it? And use those terms when you post and when you talk to people. When you are talking to people, the next thing I wish someone told me is that you don't have to tell them everything all at once. That's word vomiting, and that's actually quite overwhelming for the recipient. I think for me, something when I was new that really, I didn't have a good understanding of how long sometimes it takes to build relationships that then people trust you enough to say, yeah, I want to work with you. So I was kind of putting this arbitrary time limit on how long a sale was supposed to take. And if I was getting close to where I thought it should be done, I would just start like talking a lot and sending a lot of messages. And it was all in good faith, right? Like I wanted them to know everything and why I was so excited. But as a consumer, that can be really overwhelming. And so knowing that you don't have to tell everybody everything all at once, you don't have to word vomit, you don't have to get it all out there in your first message, and just know that a lot of times the relationships that you're building will take time. So maybe you talk to 20 people this month and like 2 people got to be mindset. I mean, that's kind of how I'm feeling right now, but I know that all those people that I talk to, I'm building these relationships that maybe next month or the next month or the next month is going to come back to me. Okay, so a few more here. Another thing I wish someone told me was to find a tracking method and to be okay if it's not perfect, okay? Like there's Asana, there's Teamsy, there's pen and paper, there's a spreadsheet, there's this, that, and the other. And I think the same thing kind of goes for like day planners. A lot of times you spend so much time and energy trying to find the perfect one that fits everything that you need. And sometimes that, well, not sometimes, I know I wasted quite a bit of time on trying to make it perfect. So find something that at minimum you can help remind you who you need to follow up with. That's for me my biggest thing. So at minimum, make sure it can help you remember that, and make sure it can help you remember like who you're talking to about what. Otherwise, in my opinion, everything else is like bells, whistles, like next level shit, okay? So even if it's like pen and paper, in a notebook, the one thing I don't recommend is don't do the Jen method of sticky notes where next thing you know you have like 20 sticky notes next to your computer and you gotta like flip through them all. I do that at my day job too, and it's so bad. Just write it in a notebook at least so you can like have some semblance of organization, but don't waste time on having the perfect tracking system that does everything for you, and then all you do is track stuff and you never actually talk to people. If you're an engineer or a spreadsheet person, like I know you just want to like, that's all you want to do is make the perfect spreadsheet, but sometimes 80 to 90% perfect is good enough, and it will allow you to actually work and talk to people. These next 3, and they're the last 3, they're a little bit like touchy-feely, and to be honest, if someone had told me this as a new coach, I'm not sure I really would have gotten it, but I want to put it out there for you guys so you can think about it, especially as you're, doing all your personal development and really working on your personal growth. If you're doing something, whether it's writing a post or sending a message, and it feels icky. Now, there's a difference between icky and scary, okay? There's stepping outside your comfort zone, but then there's sometimes where you're like, this just doesn't feel like me. This feels weird. I don't like this. Don't do it. Even if every single other coach is posting the same post and getting massive results, and you type it and you're like, oh my God, no, don't do it. You can totally think of a different way to authentically get the message across. That feels true to you. I think a lot of times when you don't know what to say, it's, you just take what you see and you regenerate it. But if it doesn't feel good to you, there's no reason to do it. You can totally find a different way to send the message. Or another thing to do is message a coach or your upline or whatever and be like, hey, this is what I want to say. Does this sound like me or no? And then as a new coach, like we used to do that all the time. Like we would send like, hey, so-and-so said this. This is what I want to say back. What do you think? We did that all the time. We should probably still do that, actually. It's very helpful. But just listen to your gut on that. If it doesn't feel like you, don't do it. The next thing is that your energy is really, really important. This is something that I feel like I'm still working on, still learning. But I don't think there is not a single person in this call that probably had room on their plate to be a coach, right? Like no one was like, hey, I have all this extra time. Let me go find something to do. We are all so busy and we are pulled in so many different directions. And when you try to run this type of business that's very personal, relationship based, and you are constantly burned out, tired, exhausted, it's hard to work from that place. And so when you are working from a low energy state, a lot of times that comes across. I can tell when I'm in a low energy state because I don't want to message anyone. I find myself scrolling the news feed. There's just little signals, and I realize that maybe I'm not in the best place at the moment to go talk to people. So I will actually take a step back. I won't work, and I'll go do something that recharges myself. We actually learned about this at my job a couple years ago. We got some training, but there's this place you can go to. It's the Energy Project. So just Google the Energy Project, and it's more for corporate style businesses, but it has a lot of really great insights as far as when you are working a job, especially how we work, which is normally an hour, full force, spurts at a time, that's really energy intensive. And so you have to be in a really good space to be able to do that and be successful at it. And so understanding that when you go put in all that major effort, you're going to need a recharge period. And so for those of you that maybe you try to work at your lunch break, or you work as soon as you get home, or you're with your kids, and you go to bed, and then they go to bed and you just got to switch over, know that sometimes that's a challenge. And so maybe that's why sometimes you don't want to work or whatever. Let's see. Question: what's your best strategy tip to get into high energy state when you feel yourself in a low energy state, but it's biz hours and you want to work? Okay, so there's two things that I really like to do if I am just I just don't have time to take 2 seconds to get myself in a better mood. One of them is actually to do a quick meditation. I use the Headspace app, and I'm not as regular with it as I want to be, but you can go in there and there's 1, 2, 3 minute little quickies that you can listen to that at least can help you switch your brain from whatever crazy was just going on to, okay, now it's time for me to be happy and talk to people. So that's number one. And the second thing that I love to do is listen to, I love to listen to rap music when I really need to pump myself up. And I don't know if this sounds weird, but there's a station on Pandora called Game Day R&B Rap or something like that. It's just so good. And it just whatever music, when it comes on, you're okay, yes. And it totally re-energizes you. That's what you want to turn on when you just don't feel like doing it. So those are my two biggest tips. And I'll be at the office and I'll pull my headphones on and I'll crank it up so no one else can hear, but I can in my brain, so I can jump into it. But I think the important thing is to recognize that happens to you. And then to also, you need to not expect yourself to operate at high level all the time. There's going to be times where you have tough days, where you feel terrible. Recognize that you're there and be okay, I need to do something about this before I try to, go do a bunch of output in an hour. So I hope that makes sense. I know this one I said was a little touchy-feely. Okay, and then the last one, kind of similarly goes along with that, but just in general, we all decided to add something more to our plates. Like I said, I don't know that I realized when I started coaching. Well, number one, I don't think I realized how much I was going to love this job. And because of that, I didn't realize like how much I was going to want to spend on it, and then how much time I couldn't spend on it because I have like a day job, and you know, you have to like work all that out. And so I found myself wanting to give more of myself to more people and more things than what I had before. And my level of self-care before I started coaching was real shitty. And then I added something else to it. And you have to take care of yourself. This kind of goes back to like what I said at the very beginning. You do not have to spend every single moment of your free time on this business. You should not do that. You need to take time for yourself. You know, make sure you're doing your workouts. That's your you time. Don't feel like you have to be on every single training call if you need a night for your family. In fact, schedule nights for your family, schedule date nights. You know, make sure that you are even more focused on taking care of yourself, because once you get into this business, and especially if you love it, you just want to help everyone and you just want to give yourself to everyone, and you can't do that because it totally depletes you. And then when you're depleted, you're not helpful to anybody. So it is absolutely imperative that you make sure you're taking time for yourself. And I know that that is not an easy thing to do at all, and it takes a lot of work. But just know that it's important. It's something that the more you work on, I think the better off you'll be, and the better you'll be able to serve people, because you'll be taking care of yourself, and then you can teach them how to do the same thing. Okay, that's my list. I had some input from some other coaches and just, you know, stuff that I really wish, thinking back, I had maybe known a bit more about when I first started. So I'm going to post this. I just made a little list, so I'll post that in the group. I don't have slides. Again, this is recording, so we can watch this again. But does anyone have questions or thoughts, or if you've been a coach for a while, anything in particular that maybe I missed that you wish you knew? I'll kind of open it up. Anybody? How much time do you spend a day and how many days a week? Okay, so right now my business schedule looks as follows. With the caveat that I am on purpose not working as much right now because I am baby prep mode-ing. So I work during my lunch break Monday through Friday, so that's an hour every single day. I work Wednesday nights for an hour, so 7:30 to 8:30 before this call. And then, so let's see, so that's 6 hours. And then on the weekends, I work, I would say an hour or two each morning if we're not traveling. And what I try to do on the weekends is like group prep, checking in with people, doing my own like learning, like, you know, like me, myself, this past weekend, I went through a bunch of 2B Mindset videos. So I still consider that work on the weekends, but I don't necessarily message invite kind of thing. So what's that total? 6 hours for sure. And then maybe up to 10. But like I said, caveat, I'm on purpose a little bit lower as far as hours go than maybe what I was pre-pregnancy or before that, when I would work my lunch break, and then most nights I would work an hour as soon as I got home. So I was doing a lot more previously. So I hope that helps. And also know that, like, if life comes at you, you can take a step back for a hot second and then get back into it. Like, that's okay too. Okay, Becca. I love what you said about wishing you knew that combos take time. On the same line, I wish I knew that combos I'm having now may not lead to an actual new client until a year from now. So true. So true. This is, I don't know why. We want this business to be so freaking fast, and it is not. It is so slow. But if you guys stick around, if you stick with this, I mean, you will not hear from people for a year, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm in, I'm ready, let's do it. I want to order right now. You know, so you just got to stick around, be consistent, and just know that that happens. Stephanie, just keep planting the seeds. Yes, every conversation is a seed. Every no is still a seed. Like you've created that discussion, that conversation starter. Cassidy, do you run free groups also? Yes, I do. I run, except for this month. It didn't happen this month, but most months I run a free group, and I have been alternating between, for most of this year I did clean week, like super basic, do the workouts, here's the meal plan, like let's roll. And I would do the same thing a couple months in a row. I also like to do like water challenges. I did a steps, like everyone count their steps, free group. And then another one I had really good success with was, I forget what I called it. But I subscribe to Shine texts, which are like, some of you guys might have them too. It's like a daily, like positive message you get in your text message or Facebook message every morning. I sometimes run free groups off that. I call it like a positivity week or something. And people just sign up for it. And then each day we talk about our takeaways from the text. So yes, I run free groups. They're not involved or complicated because I don't have time. You know, in my ideal world, I'm running free groups that are like all about recipes and food and dairy-free this and pregnancy that, but that's unrealistic for me right now. So I keep it super simple, but I try to run them almost every single month unless something crazy comes up. Okay, anyone else? Questions, comments? Okay, thanks for hopping on, you guys. I appreciate you taking your time because, like I said, I know everyone's super busy, and we'll get this recording posted. And I am going to be live sometime on Friday for an Ask Me Anything if something else pops into your brain that you think about. I don't know what time yet, but I'll post it. So, okay, thanks so much, everyone, and see you later. Bye.